Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios. This is Knightline, and it is episode number 79. And with me, as always, is
Trylko. Hello, everyone. Just flew back from Detroit, and boy, are my arms tired. Remember that old joke?
That's funny.
Just in from Michigan.
You went up there for a little bit of a football game that we had going on.
Yeah, a little
yesterday.
bit of a football game. The 20th straight year I have gone on a UCF road excursion of some kind, and boy, was that one in Ann Arbor, the big house.
And you'd never been there before, right? That was your first time?
No, all of those 20 are following UCF somewhere, so not just randomly going to a game. And first opportunity to be there.
So tell us about the experience of the Ann Arbor Stadium or Michigan Stadium, whatever.
Michigan Stadium.
Is that what they call it?
It is huge. They announced 109,000 plus, certainly the largest crowd UCF has ever played before. Student section, I had to laugh. The students there, just like the students at UCF, noon game, they rolled in. They weren't all in their seats at kickoff.
Huh,
so,
well, that's good.
They were out partying on Friday night, no doubt.
I guess that's something that doesn't just happen to us, so that's good.
No, it happens there as well. Big, but, it's something I noticed when I went to Ohio State a couple of years ago. It's huge, and certainly when they scored, and as we know, they scored early and often in that first quarter and first half. It did, of course, get loud with all of those folks cheering for the Wolverines. But after that, when they weren't doing so, very quiet. They watched the game, and that was the same thing that happened at Ohio State.
What was the sound like after Adrian Killens ran his 87-yard touchdown back? Was that did they quiet down, or?
Well, what's interesting about that and that question is that obviously when you're on a road game, when the road team scores, that the home team there scores, they go crazy. But when we do something and you're sitting with other UCF fans, we go crazy. So you may only be with 2,000-3,000 people of your own, but it seems like we're very loud,
right,
with each other. So we, of course, were going crazy, and it was our perspective on it. We just saw him. Oh, he took off. Boy, the burners on that guy.
Now, which end of the stadium, or you guys were in a corner, I'm assuming?
Corner. They had us. They didn't have us in any sort of triangle-shaped section. They had us spread across rows, across several sections, to reduce the amount of impact that we could possibly have, those couple thousand. But folks were very warm and welcoming. All the ushers, security folks, welcome to Michigan Stadium, welcome to Ann Arbor. They recognized us. Folks downtown on Friday night for the various, restaurants and bars and pub crawl type things. Everybody was very nice to us. Of course, they're probably not too intimidated by UCF coming to town, being a 35, 36-point underdog. But folks were very nice. For the most part, we dodged the raindrops.
So you didn't get beat up in the parking lot or anything. That's good.
No.
That's great.
And I didn't get beat up anywhere else, but I've had bad experiences. Virginia Tech comes to mind, where fans were very verbally abusive, flinging profanity. Had a situation at an alumni tailgate, came out, left the UCF flags on the rental car. They were snapped in half, put under the windshield wiper at Virginia Tech.
Wow.
So,
that's unfortunate.
But this one, the experience was good. And I thought it was interesting. I listened back on the flight to you holding down the fort on the post-game live, and good job there. And, boy, a lot of folks called, and a lot of folks from across the state. I heard folks from Boynton Beach and Clearwater, and I was really interested to hear what our fans
Canada,
thought, because there's the perspective of being in the stadium, there's the perspective of watching on TV, and then hearing someone other than you and I talking about it was really interesting to me. More optimism in those calls than I anticipated, that people felt pretty good. And today at the airport, I had UCF fans saying, you know what, we did a pretty good job with their Michigan running game, and they felt good, even though it was a 51-14 loss.
Yeah, so if you don't know what Trace is talking about, we have started a new show as well on road games. We are doing a post-game live. It's called Knightline Post-Game Live, and it is on Rabble.tv, which is a website and an app on your iPhone or your Android device. And it lets us broadcast out just like anything else does, but it's live and you can, listen to it in your car, through Bluetooth or whatever, but we're doing Knightline post-game live for all road games this season, and it was cool. I really enjoyed it. 2 hours of call-ins, because UCF has never had a call-in radio show.
And you went right to it. I literally walked down the steps, dialed you, and then you went, Trace joins us from Ann Arbor. I'm like, wow. I mean, I hadn't even made it down the steps. I was trying to call you as quickly as I could.
Yeah.
And you went right up as soon as that game ended.
Well, that's I made up the little, when the clock expires, we go live. And that's my plan. When the clock hits 0 on that clock in the stadium, if you're there or watching on TV, we will be live instantly after that. So please.
Coming up, FIU is the next road game. That's, I believe, a 7 o'clock start down in Miami. So 10:30 in that range you'll be on.
It'll be a little bit late on that one. On the late night games, it's obviously going to run a little bit late. So we're normally going to do about 2 hours doing that, and I guess if not enough people call or something, we won't have to do 2 hours. But I'd like to just plan on doing 2 hours of that, and so people do have the opportunity to call. I really, really enjoyed it. So please, please, please mark that on your calendars and give us a call when that comes up next, which is not this Saturday, but the Saturday after FIU. We will be on immediately when the clock stops. So,
yeah, I thought it was really great to hear the fans' perspective.
Rebel.tv.
And the Rebel.tv, I downloaded the app. It's clean. It's clear. Folks are more familiar, of course, with an iHeartRadio app, but it's the same basic thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
You get it clear and clean. And
and there's if you go online with your computer to Rebel.tv, there's a little chat room, and you can chat to us and the other people that are listening. And the guys at Rebel.tv are absolutely awesome. I talked to Dan quite a bit from there, and he is absolutely an amazing guy. He does anything that he can to help us if we have a technical issue or anything else. So Rebel.tv, they're going to be doing some new things coming up here shortly, and we're going to be helping test some of that stuff for them. And it's very, very nice platform, and I really enjoy using it, and it's very solid. So, it stays up. You don't have streaming issues and all that. So I'm very happy with it, and please join us on there coming up.
Yeah, and you had the opportunity to speak with fans, and it's interesting, obviously, to hear that we all share the same, special teams. God, they killed us, the special teams, and a lot of questions about the quarterback play.
I guess with
Justin Holman going down with an injury, Nick Patty coming in, and at this point, as we record, and UCF not going to be particularly forthcoming about an injury status, not that they fully know the extent to which Justin is hurt, does put into question who's going to be playing against Maryland Saturday.
That's interesting, because I have a clip right here from Scott Frost on Holman's injury.
We have a policy, we won't talk about injuries. He wasn't able to come back in the second half, and I'm not sure we would have played him if he would have, just to make sure that he's healthy going forward. So we look forward to having him back.
Yeah, I apologize for the audio on those. Those clips were not so great. There was a lot of noise in there and all kinds of stuff, so I apologize for that. But there it is, right there. We're not going to talk about it, basically. And
get used to that phrase.
It's kind of like the Big 12. We're not going to talk about it.
Get used to that phrase.
Yeah.
Well, Justin was 3 of 11 before he went down, 19 yards, a long of 13, sacked twice. Nick Patty comes in. At least there's consistency. He was 3 of 11, 37 yards. His long was 17. So on the day, UCF quarterback 6 of 22 for 56 yards. I mean, only 4 guys, obviously, when you only have 6 completions, only 4 guys got in on any action. Taylor Oldham with 3 catches for 29 yards. I mean, the rest of the stats in that category don't seem to matter much. Justin Holman really struggled against Michigan. He was only 14 of 28, right, in the first game against South Carolina State. So
here's the deal. The glaring stat, since we're talking about stats for this game, the glaring stat, the most important thing that has happened so far for UCF, period, 312 rushing yards against this bad to the bone, one of the best defenses in all of college football. We ran for 312 yards against Michigan.
Well, certainly boosted by the 87 from Adrian Killens, but that was 46 rushes for 312, average 6 yards per carry.
312 take away 87 is still pretty dang good.
And that was your Michigan Wolverine post-game chatter as they were streaming out. Their concern about...
I'm sure.
Were they exposed a little bit in that area in this game?
A
game that certainly was never in doubt, but then they're thinking, their talk there is that they're a national championship contending team. They saw concern there, and no doubt that's what Jim Harbaugh is going to be focusing in on this week.
Yeah, they were really exposed right around the end for 87 yards.
What a great play that was.
Adrian Killens. Holy Moses.
I don't think I've seen a run like that for UCF before, really, that he put on the burners like he did.
Yeah, there's a couple of them, actually, and we can get into that here in a little while. It actually let's talk about it right now. It actually ties, I got to find my paper, it actually ties the longest run ever by a Knight. Running back Adrian Killens' 87-yard touchdown run early in the second quarter is tied for the second longest play in school history and matches UCF's record for the longest run from scrimmage. Brashad Perryman has the Knights' longest play with a 91-yard reception from Blake Bortles against South Carolina in 2013. Killens tied Kevin Smith an 87-yard run versus Marshall in 2007, and Bernard Ford an 87-yard reception versus Northwest Missouri State in 87 yards in 87. For the second longest plays in school history.
It was a
and it came
run
against Michigan.
Yes.
So
what you're indicating, if I hear you correctly, is that you saw upside in this 51-14 loss, and you feel better about the running game.
You should be able to beat any team that you run for 312 yards against at any time. Otherwise. Besides if your quarterbacks throw for a combined 56 yards.
Friend of mine, not a Knight, doesn't mind when we win. He's a Gator, but he said if it weren't for special teams, you guys would be hanging with Michigan.
Absolutely.
Was his impression of what he was watching.
We would have at one point, yes. Special teams was horrible, but one of the things that I tweeted during that entire thing when the special teams was happening, I can't remember exactly the words that I said. I'd have to look it up, but I said something like, we will see what Scott Frost is like as a head coach because he has to deal with this situation as well. It is completely on him with the special teams as well because he's the head coach. There may be a special teams coach, but it is all on him. We will see if he can get this fixed, and they got it fixed. No more blocked punts.
And the field goals... And I thought this during the game, and one of the calls in the live show with you indicated this. Why was he attempting those long field goals at those points in the game? I did question that at the time as well. And can I? That's a question I've thrown out there, but let me throw out another one. And there was some grumbling. I'm not saying that there's the firefrost.com being fired up by the fan base, but there were people saying, "Where's the fast?" They felt like they were seeing a little of this O'Leary offense into a pile of players.
When you're so far, and I said this to the caller that asked that, when you're so far behind, number one, or when your players are kind of confused out there with all these signals and new stuff, you can't go that fast. And this is a work in progress. He said that a million times. We need to remember that this is a work in progress. This is not the group of kids that he will have in 2 years run this system. In 2 years is when you're going to see the real fast, or when we're way ahead, or something, when everybody gets comfortable and is, knowing what they're doing without even thinking about it. These kids are still, digesting all this stuff. This is a big, crazy offense. I mean, it's very complex. People will say that it's easy because it's a read off of this guy or a read off of that guy, but it's not. It's complex. There's a lot of different stuff going on out there. The quarterback, whoever it is, has to be really on his game and a fast thinker and be able to like think about it and do it as fast as possible. And that's the person that's going to regulate how fast this goes, because the faster that the quarterback can react to what he sees and what he knows he's supposed to do, the faster this offense is going to run.
Coming up, we're going to have the Maryland insider, and he's talking about the quarterback UCF's going to face next. And something that stood out in that interview was he talked about that their quarterback, repetition. And with the complexity of the offense that Scott Frost is bringing to UCF, that repetition has to occur. And now it most likely is going to have to occur with Nick Patty. Before we leave running game, 2 rushing touchdowns week 1 against South Carolina State, 2 rushing touchdowns week 2 against Michigan. That's 4. All of last year, 12 games, total of 4. So in 2 games, they've equaled 12-game output last year.
And what were I can't remember, but we had a good amount of rushing yards last week as well against South Carolina State. So we're probably above our rushing total in yards, honestly, from last year. We're probably already above it, if not getting really close to it.
Well, that's interesting. We'll have to go back and...
if you talk for a couple minutes, I can look for it
one
or
of the
something.
Things, if you want to look at one of the things that I've been doing during the game is that I can kind of jot down, and I borrowed it from a friend of mine who does this with Orlando City, the good, the bad, and the ugly, that I sort of take note of. And I put down Adrian Killens. I just listed him as 1. that was a good and a great. I put down the rushing totals, obviously, and the rushing touchdowns. And I put down the rushing defense. I thought we did a pretty good job of bottling up Michigan's running game in that game. And they rushed 41 times for 147 yards, but that wasn't their ground and pound style of running. When they had some opportunity to make some plays and the field opened up a little bit, they got some yards. But I thought we did a pretty good job on the rushing defense. We can talk a little bit more as you look up those stats, what other things you saw that you felt were in the good category, but those were the ones that stood out to me as I was watching the game. And I felt pretty good about their the run defense. I thought they bottled things up pretty good along the line.
Okay, I looked it up real quick just to get back to that. Rushing yardage for last year. All of last year, 900. The whole season, 975 yards.
Oh, that's horrible.
All right?
Yeah.
So we actually gained 1,247, but after everything with the lost yards and everything else, 975. So let me do some quick math here. And I have to go back to the stats from last game to just to see this. But I believe we're approaching that. I don't know. We probably have 5.
Well, I was going to say, we're not.
We probably have 500 and something, I believe. But
which speaks to something that we talked about. You just go back a couple of weeks when we were trying to talk about what the offense was going to look like. It was that you're going to see running plays. It's not just all this high-flying pass-happy offense. You're going to see a lot of running, and so no surprise that UCF has been doing that.
Okay, so I got all these stat sheets in front of me, and now I'm getting confused which one's which. So 312.
Do we need counting music?
So we've already rushed for 509 yards.
509.
So we're more than halfway there
in two games
compared to what we did all of last year.
So you're suggesting
Folks,
improvement.
Huge improvement. Huge improvement. So, I mean, what do we play? 12 games? 11 games?
12.
12.
Hopefully 13.
So, yeah. So, that's a lot.
What else do you have from your observation of the game and talking with callers? What else do you have in the good category?
I am not John Swift, so I can't do all these numbers as fast as he can. Yeah, he's Mr. Numbers guy, and I've talked to him, and hopefully he will be coming and doing
crunching the numbers
again. So if we average, though, just think about this real quick. If we average 200 yards a game times 12 games, that's 2,400 yards. If we average that.
And Michigan is arguably going to be the toughest opponent we play, and Houston may be in that category when we get to that game.
And that's one of the things, though, also, this defense is supposed to be so great up in Michigan, and we ran for all these yards on them. I want to see what that defense is like at the end of the year. If that defense, is the number one ranked defense, then we really have something to feel good about as far as that goes. We still lost 51 to 14, whatever. But there is always things to be taken positive from these losses.
What else do you have in the positive category? Beyond those three that I threw out.
You said Killins, the rushing
I just put
TDs,
Killins as his own category because I love the run.
The final total, rushing defense. Yeah, the rushing defense was, I don't know if you talked about this because I was looking up something else.
You were looking up things.
Yeah, I wasn't listening. It's amazing how I can tune you out. It's amazing.
Let's edit that out.
I get that from my girlfriend. Anyway, those are the positives. I didn't see anybody really out there getting into fights and arguments very much. There was one little thing with Franks at one point. I don't think it got called.
They never gave up would be something I'd throw in the category of positives.
I was going there. Yeah. So they weren't out there fighting with people. They didn't give up. That's a huge thing as far as I'm concerned. And their attitudes afterwards in the locker room was the same thing, and I've got some clips that we can play in a little while about that. So they definitely didn't give up. And it was getting bad. I mean, it was getting ugly. It was getting ugly in the first quarter.
Because of mistakes.
Yeah, because of mistakes. But, again, and I didn't say this last year because I didn't feel that the players were giving their full effort last year. I'm saying now, even after 2 games, of course they're still giving their full effort, and they're going to. Scott Frost has got a totally different thing going here than George O'Leary did. Positive reinforcement goes, 1,000 miles, as we've talked about before. But I just don't think that they're going to get down after a game like this because it was expected, number one. Of course, they went in there with the attitude as we can win, and if the small mistakes weren't made, they probably could have. But I know for a fact, and this is a positive, that this stuff is going to be worked on this week, and some of these things will be worked out. Not everything, but a lot of it's going to get worked out in practice, and those mistakes are going to be gone over and over and over and over again. They're all going to watch the tape, and they're all going to have a chance to fix that stuff. Aside
from quarterback play, what did you see through 2 games that continues to concern you, that you didn't see improvement from week 1 to week 2, that you feel could be there as a problem in weeks 3 and 4 and so forth?
Well, I say the offensive line, of course, because we've still got issues there. But then if you think about this...
312 yards
exactly,
of rushing.
You think about 312 yards rushing and 197 in the first game. So that offensive line can't be that bad. They can run protect. They can run block, but they can't pass block. Pass blocking is the issue. The quarterback, whoever it is, I don't care if it's Joe Blow from down the street, whoever it is, they have to block for him. It could be Joe Blow by the end of the year. You never know.
So Michigan had 3 sacks on the day. Total of 3 sacks.
It could have been a million times more than that. Not a million, but...
back on the offense, and Holman's perhaps struggled with the ability to get rid of it fast. I mean, he hung back, and that pocket just collapses on him. But in fairness, now on Michigan's defense, he wasn't finding an open wide receiver either. He holds onto the ball a little long and can't find an open wide receiver.
The problem that I have always had with Holman, number one, he still tries to sling it right in there like it's a fastball. And sometimes those fastballs work. We saw one last game that worked. Otherwise, they don't work. Number 2, that's really, besides that Hail Mary back, 2 years ago, he's not accurate. He is not accurate. He is not an accurate passer, period. That's a big problem, especially when you're trying to go 1,000 miles an hour. You have to be able to throw it in there and do it accurate, or the receiver can't catch the ball.
So in all likelihood, we're not going to see him play against Maryland. And if we assume Nick Patty's the quarterback, and I
I
know
can
there's some
guarantee
chatter.
we're not going to see him play against Maryland.
I know there's some chatter about burning Mackenzie Milton's red shirt, and we've got other people on the bench, Garrett Kruzik and others, Tyler Harrison and the like. If it is Nick Patty in this third game against Maryland, what do they have to do to put him in a position to succeed?
Well, he's really got to take off and run with it, I think, number one. He's got to take off and run with it, and they've got to make more of these screens to the ends. But I'm telling you, he didn't look accurate either. When he was out there, he didn't...
3 of 11.
3 of 11. So
he looks so small on the field, too.
Well, yeah, he can't see over the linemen's heads. He sees the back of their neck, if anything. I mean, he has to jump just like Drew Brees and whoever that other the Russell Wilson that people talk about that are short guys. They have to do something very special to throw the ball over these offensive linemen's heads.
So you expect him rolling around and rolling out and moving, but that can become one-dimensional too.
Absolutely. So
Maryland is not Michigan, but Maryland is still competing in the Big Ten, and they still have bodies on the line.
I'm not saying burn the red shirt. As much as I would love to see Mackenzie Milton out there, and some people think that I love Mackenzie Milton. I've seen the guys.
Some people refer to it as a man crush.
Whatever. I have seen the tape on this guy, and I've talked to him in person and on the phone, and the guy just seems like it's going to come all together. He knows the system, blah, 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 a million other things. Obviously, we don't want to burn his red shirt if it doesn't need to be. Garrett Kruzik can play this system. I guarantee it. He can throw it, and he can throw it with accuracy. We saw it in the spring game. Now, maybe in practice, obviously, we haven't seen any of that, so we don't know what's happened with him. But I think that he can throw with more accuracy than probably either one of the guys that are in front of him.
2 games seem so soon to make the decision to burn the red shirt on McKenzie.
But
the chatter amongst the fans at the Michigan game was, they're already looking ahead to next year. Who's going to be quarterbacking next year? How long can we hang in with Holman and Patty before we start to think ahead to another season?
Well, Holman and Patty won't be here next year.
Right, so that's the question when do you want to trot him out?
Yeah.
At what point? And I think
at some point it will be
We
him.
talked a couple of weeks ago about towards the latter part of the season, not the early part of the season. Let him digest more and acclimate to college football and college life before they do that.
He needs to put a little bit of weight on because he's skinny as a rail.
He's listed in the media notes as the same height as Nick Patty.
Really?
5'11".
Well, Nick Patty is not 5'11", I guarantee it.
That's a generous 5'11"?
Yes. There's all kinds of stuff that is not right in that. He's 5'8" or 5'9" at the max. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. I'm 5'11". And if I walk up to him, his eyes are at my collarbone.
We've talked to him.
Yeah, I've talked to him in person. I mean, I can guarantee you
we've talked to
100% accuracy that he is not 5'11". Of course, they're making him look a little bit better in that. There's no way that he's 5'11". In fact, the first time I actually walked up to him and talked to him in person, I kind of couldn't talk because I was thinking, I was like, oh my God, you are not even close to 5'11". You're like 5'8". The Hobbit, we call him.
Oh, that's not his name, is it? He might. Now,
in our section in the stadium, we call him, oh, look, it's the Hobbit.
Oh,
yes, boy. Absolutely.
You've got some sound from him as well?
I do. Yeah, you want to hear what Nick Patty had to say about the message that Scott Frost gave to them after the game.
The message from Coach Frost was, for us to come together tighter and tighter as a team, win or loss. And, today it's gonna test that, and we got to do a good job as seniors and leaders and guys that have been around. And like I said earlier, taking the positives and not letting anything come between us as teammates, not letting anything come between us and the coaches, and moving on to next week.
All right, so there you have it from Nick Patty. Moving on to next week.
UCF fan base, I think, is not in meltdown mode, and you could hear the positivity from callers during Knightline Live. Post-game live. I'm still getting used to the title. But, this was always expected to be a loss on the schedule, right? No matter what, this was most likely going to be a loss on the schedule. We all expected
it. It was, we would have loved, obviously, for it to be a win, but we all expected this not to be a win.
So UCF led in every minute of the game against South Carolina State, trailed in every minute of the game at Michigan. Scott Frost suffers his first loss as head coach. But let's talk about what's important. What do you think of the black helmets?
First of all, let's do this. Let's hear what Scott Frost had to say immediately following the game, and then we'll talk about the black helmets.
Our team played hard today. There's absolutely no doubt about it. The passion, the effort, the physicality was there. Sometimes our execution isn't where it needs to be. The team we played executed really well. We need to catch up with that and make sure that we can be as physical and play as hard as we did today and execute at that pace in that kind of game.
All right, so they have to play harder and execute.
He was pleased with the hitting, though, wasn't he?
Yeah. I mean, that's all you can expect from your players, is to play hard. And, you know, it was said that the Michigan players, like, came up to some of the guys after the game and were like, you know, you guys brought it. You guys definitely, we knew you were here. You definitely, you know, brought it. One of the guys said that in their interview, not a clip that I have, but that I heard. So, anyway, if you want to talk about the black helmets are absolutely beautiful. Black is my favorite color, of course.
Not white?
No.
Not anymore?
We talked about the white jerseys and all that stuff. No, I love the black helmets.
I think the black helmets. They're sweet.
Those are the best ones, I believe. So,
if they had those available for purchase, they'd be selling a lot of those.
I guess, you know,
do they now?
I guess you can buy game-used stuff now.
They're doing like an auction.
They're doing auctions, yeah. So you can buy it. I bet, you know, at some point Nike will be selling those helmets coming up soon.
They're nice.
It'll be I think most of our helmets are Rydell, but I bet you Nike will have something to do with that.
One of the things I had in the bad category was penalties, but let's talk about the targeting call.
That was ridiculous. I don't
Hard to tell from where we were, row 95, by the way.
Right.
By the way, back to that stadium. The top of the stadium is at street level, essentially street level. It's just a big sunken bowl.
Yeah.
So, you know,
they built that thing back in like the 20s.
I had this vision we were going to have to hoof up 95 rows, but we just turned the corner. Boom, there we were at the seats. We were at the top already.
And you know? how many rows up from the top were you?
Just almost 2 rows to the top is what row 95 was. Targeting, really?
No.
And but they reviewed it though too, right?
Yeah, but I don't know where he was not defenseless. He was not a defenseless receiver.
But they reviewed it.
I understand that, but they were wrong. And that was
review too?
that was referee bias. Those were those were Big Ten referees, and they were going to give Michigan anything that they could.
So why would that's so silly the way the NCAA does officiating and referees?
As we were talking about on the post-game live show, did you see what happened at Oklahoma State?
Central Michigan, a MAC school.
Guess whose referees those were?
Big 12?
No. Those were the MAC referees.
Were the MAC. I don't understand if they're going to do it this way. Why don't they just get the Conference USA officials to be that game and why have either team's officials
I don't know.
involved
That's
in that
just
game?
The way that it works. But
it was an exciting play that Central Michigan that should have never happened.
Right.
A Hail Mary with a lateral.
Right.
And the big fallout from that, beyond the fact that they were wrong, that they shouldn't have given them another play.
The play should never have happened.
Oklahoma State runs the table, wants to be in the national
Not anymore.
title. Well, you know, we'll see what happens. I don't think they're good enough to be in that position.
No. But they can't.
But strength of schedule and everything else impacts everybody else they play. We'll get to the Big 12 soap opera later.
They've still lost a game. They're not going to be undefeated this year.
Big 12's taken it on the chin the first 2 weeks of the year, haven't they?
Yeah.
Oklahoma losing to Houston. This upset with Central Michigan that shouldn't have been but is. And it still counts as a loss.
I read a tweet or something from the AD there at Oklahoma State, and he was trying as hard as he could. He had called every official and the NCAA and everything, trying to get them to reverse that and make it a win.
They're
never going to do that.
They're not going to do that.
But anyway, yes, there are bad calls by referees. I do not believe, honestly, I looked at it over and over, and it was not targeting. Targeting, number one, you have to leave your feet. That's one of the biggest things. You don't have to, but that's one of the biggest things they look for, leaving the feet and diving. And using your head or hitting somebody above the head. or in the head.
If called properly,
and using
I
the crown
that.
of your helmet.
If called properly, I support that rule, but it does not seem like it was fairly applied to that play.
It was not. He used his shoulder. That was a beautiful football hit. There was no way that was targeting. Thank God he is not going to be out for the first quarter because it happened, before halftime, I guess.
Yeah, I don't entirely understand that and didn't have opportunity to, with a fly back, to
if it happens after halftime, they extend the...
they missed the first half?
The first quarter or the first half, I'm not sure.
So he simply missed the second half of the Michigan
second half
game.
of the Michigan game, and he's back this week. So it's insane. I just think that the referees were looking for anything to help Michigan, even though they didn't need it. But they called every penalty except 2, I believe.
There were some bonehead
UCF.
penalties, though, on UCF
and
as well. Though
Michigan, guaranteed, was holding constantly.
Well, there's holding all the time.
There's holding out there all the time that they don't call, but they called it on us.
To dramatize your point, 2 penalties on Michigan for a total of 20 yards. 9 for 76 levied against UCF. It's hard to believe in watching that game that Michigan only committed 2 penalties.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, when you see the nation's leaders in penalties, it might be 5 a game.
Yeah.
So they're just on their way to a tremendous season if they're only getting flagged twice.
I wonder if they got flagged only twice in their first game against Hawaii. And who those referees were.
That seems like something you could be looking at.
I don't know. Yeah, I could look that up too. We need an intern. It's been told, people keep saying it on...
that we need an intern, or they want to be our intern?
No, that we need an intern, and we do. We need an intern. Is
this
finally
really professional? Can they fetch drinks?
Absolutely. They can do all that
they
stuff.
Can drink
they
too.
can make us coffee.
They can drink while they're
They can drink. They can fan us with a palm leaf.
They have no idea at the 1148 studios how
what's the temperature in here right
84.1 degrees.
84.1 degrees in here right now because of all these computers and electronic junk.
It's balmy here.
It's balmy. Oh, it's horrible. One of these days.
We're not exactly setting up a good job description for the person.
Oh yeah, it's a calm, cool 65 in here actually. No, but if you know somebody that would be a good intern, they need to be, and we're not going to do stupid stuff with them like whatever they did on the radio with the guy from Tampa. What's the Bubba Love Sponge? We're not going to do crap like that. We're talking about
hazing here. No
hazing. We're talking about somebody that can look stuff up for us, that can sit here with a computer and look stuff up for us and all that, and maybe can help me obviously, so I don't have to sit here and do a million things while I'm doing this, and I can actually pay attention and talk. It's my job. It's what I do. Talk.
You know what Adrian Killens does?
Yeah.
Can we go to Adrian Killens? No.
Well, I was still talking.
You were done with that.
No, I was still on this intern thing. Anyway,
okay, the intern thing.
Because I'm the boss. Anyway, that was a comment that I made on the message board when somebody. Anyway, I'm not going to go there, but anyway. Yes. So if you know somebody that would be interested to help us out, obviously it's for zero pay. So
a lot of prestige, though.
Let's get that off the top right now. It would be absolutely zero pay, but definitely prestige. Yeah. Prestige. I mean, you could be part of the Knightline podcast. I mean, come on. And Knightline Live and
Overtime and
Overtime
the other 7 brands.
Absolutely. We got all of it. So we got it all going here. And you could be Bobby the intern or Brenda the intern, whatever. That will be, you will not use your last name. It will be only you are the intern. Anyway, no. If you're interested, please send us an email at andrew@ucfnightlinepodcast.com, or if you feel more comfortable talking to Trace, you can do trace@ucfnightlinepodcast. Thank you.
If you want to know what it'll really be like,
.com.
Email me.
Yeah. Anyway. No, really, we're serious, though, with that, even though we're playing around a little bit. All right, let's hear from Adrian Killens.
Before we move on with the show.
Before we move on, yeah. I don't know what more there is, but anyway, Adrian Killens, TD run, and his reaction.
We ran that play a lot in practice. It executes well in practice all the time. Just got to read my blockers and read my defenders and know the safety rotation. And once I get past the secondary, I know I can't be touched and I know I can't be caught. So thanks to my receiver, Cam Stewart, he sealed the deal for that touchdown. So without that block, it would have never been a touchdown.
Even with the loss, it's never too early to be talking about bowl projections. ESPN has one this week, UCF, Georgia Southern in the Cure Bowl at Camping World Stadium. And to reaffirm the interest in the Cure Bowl, I ran into Alan Gooch at the Michigan game, longtime face with the Knights, who runs the Cure Bowl, and he was handing out little cards promoting the Cure Bowl. And he'd be very happy, he says, to see UCF in the Cure Bowl. I'm sure he would help him sell a few tickets.
Well, that's kind of interesting because if they say UCF and Georgia Southern number one, it's interesting because somebody in ESPN is saying that they think that we're going to be in a bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, that would be quite interesting because if you don't know, or if Georgia Southern maybe rings a bell, Tyson Summers is the head coach who was our defensive coordinator last year, and Coach Zoe is there, and Alan Muldridge is there, and George O'Leary's not there, but he did go up and visit him, I guess, during their preseason or their preseason practice, I guess. So that would be interesting.
Cure Bowl would really like UCF, though. That'd help him sell some tickets.
Isn't the Cure Bowl happening at Bright House Network Stadium?
No.
It's not?
No, it happens at the old Citrus Bowl, Camping World.
Oh, I guess in the beginning that they were talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, so it wouldn't be on our home field. That would be awesome.
That would be.
But yeah, it'll even be better because it's on their old home field. That would be cool. I would definitely go to that.
You would? There you go. Coming to UCF's home field next week is Maryland. Just ahead, we are joined by the color analyst for Maryland football, and we're going to ask that question we love so much. What's going on with Big 12 expansion?
5 questions with an insider, getting to know this week's opponent.
Let's dig deeper into this week's opponent. It's time for 5 questions with an insider. Tim Strachan is in his 21st season analyzing Maryland football as part of the broadcast crew, and he's kind enough to join us to break down the Terrapins. Tim, thanks so much for being on Knightline.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to coming down to Orlando for a great game.
Awesome. We are too. Tell us what you thought in week 2 there when the Terps went to FIU.
You know, it was pretty much what I expected. It was a much better opponent than the first week against Howard. And they didn't come out as crisp. They didn't come out as laser-focused as they did in the first week against Howard. And they had a little bit of adversity, but despite not playing a great game, they still were able to overcome them by 41-14 win. So the fact that they had that big of a margin of win with a lot of room to improve, I think is a positive thing that Maryland can take out of that.
We'll talk about the offense a bit more. Quarterback Perry Hillis, he threw 3 touchdowns against the Panthers. Tell us about him.
He's done an incredible job. The thing about Perry is this. He's not going to win a sprint. He's not going to win an agility drill. But if the contest has anything to do with guts, you can bet your mortgage on it. The guy's going to win it. He's a tough kid. He's got a wrestler's mentality in terms of how he approaches his craft. And in the offseason, he worked with Gus Farrat, who was an alum of his high school as well, Central Catholic. And he went back home and worked out with Gus, and Gus did a great job of shoring up some things about his mechanics and his footwork. And it really is showing. And this offense in particular suits Perry's skills. He's not going to wow you as a passer, but the way that the offense is designed to be a pace, space, and fun offense, he doesn't need to have all that responsibility that was on his back in years past. I don't like the word dumbed down offense. It's just more simple. It's got less concepts, and it's all about repetition. And this kid works so hard. He's got himself to a position where he won the starting job, and he deserved it. And he's playing extremely well, at least through the first 2 games.
Who are the other players that we have to watch out for on the offense?
Well, they have about 10 receivers. They go 10 deep on the receiver side. They can go as many as 6 on the running back side. However, probably the best one is not going to be able to play because he needs to sit out one more game from a suspension. His name's Wes Brown. He would be the starter if he was eligible to play in this game. The other 5, they rotate in pretty good. The one that has really wowed people is the true freshman, Lorenzo Harrison, who's from my alma mater, DeMatha Catholic High School. He had a 40-some yard, I think it was a 43-yard scamper in the FIU game, and it was all himself. It was a broken play, and he made up the entire 43 yards on his own. He's an extremely good running back, and I have a feeling there's going to be a lot more of that to come. Trey Edmonds is more of your bruiser back, and Ty Johnson, who's the starter right now, and it doesn't really matter because they do all play. He's beefed up a little bit more, but he's probably the quickest and best off the edge. So they can come at you with a bunch of different weapons in the run game and in the passing game.
Well, let's shift focus now to defense. Talk about its progress that you've seen through the first 2 games.
You know, there was the one thing that I saw that was a positive for Maryland in this past game against FIU. The FIU quarterback, Magoo, the starting quarterback, who's more of a passer, he got hurt after throwing a pick 6. And then the backup came in who was more of a runner. And they actually started getting some momentum and slashing the Maryland defense. But they went in at halftime, came back and totally made some corrections, and the kids adhered to it. I got to be honest with you. I haven't seen a Maryland team make those types of adjustments at halftime and come out and execute them the way that they did. It's an attacking style defense, which has always been in my 21 years the kind of defense that is successful at Maryland. And they've done extremely well through the first 2 games, but I have a feeling they're going to be up against a much tougher opponent in UCF than their first 2 opponents.
So how are fans taking to first-year head coach DJ Durkin?
It's been incredible, guys. I've never seen anything like this. This is actually the 6th head coach that I've been through. And the energy, the excitement that DJ Durkin has brought to this program is second to none. I mean, this guy has just done an incredible job. He's got a strength coach and a staff that have done the same. They're with the kids most of the time, certainly in the off season, and they really did a great job of just changing the mentality and the focus and the culture of what was going on at Maryland when they got here, and it really has taken hold. I've never seen this kind of enthusiasm on a coaching change, and these kids were just demoralized last year through that 3-9 season when Randy Edsel got fired midway through. And I was talking about this on the radio the other night. It's so nice to go to the guys at Team House now and see these kids with smiles on their faces and look like they're really enjoying themselves and having a lot of fun. And it all starts at the top. I think DJ has done just an incredible job of getting these kids refocused and enjoying football again.
That's certainly the experience that we have here at UCF with first-year head coach Scott Frost. Interesting for UCF fans that they got a preview of their next 2 opponents when Maryland played FIU on Friday. We wish you safe travels to Orlando and a good experience here. And a better experience in terms of the press box you were sharing with us when you jumped on the line. Maybe you can share with our fans the conditions that you had to deal with down in Miami, as many of our fans will be traveling from Central Florida down there for the following week, and we have a huge alumni base there. Talk a little bit about that weather and your conditions there at FIU.
Yeah, FIU, they built their own stadium. I think it was back in 2000, maybe 8. They still don't have a press box. I think they have plans to expand the stadium, and if they do, they didn't want to put in a press box for future plans, and so they've kind of got a makeshift suite area where some of the press goes, but there is no true press box, and there was no place really for the radio. In fact, I heard prior to, I think it was 2010 or 2011, radio had to do their broadcast outside. But I guess people complained enough, they got a portable pod, just a square box that was put on the mezzanine level, and we shared it with the home radio crew with a somewhat, they called it a sound barrier, but it wasn't much of one. I think the sound was bleeding through on both broadcasts. But also in the third quarter, there was a monsoon that kind of came through, and most radio booths have some sort of cover so the rain doesn't hit the windows, but it was hitting so hard and so fast for so long that we actually couldn't even see the field for a good maybe series and a half. But, I work with a guy who's a legend, Johnny Holliday, the voice of the Terps, been doing it for nearly 40 years. And we made the best of it. We made it through. The rain stopped, and and we came out unscathed. But it was some conditions we've never had before, that's for sure.
Well, it's still going to be Florida when you visit Orlando, so I can't guarantee that there's not going to be a monsoon and a rainstorm, but I can guarantee you
I tell you what, the best job in Florida is to be a weatherman. All you got to say is it's going to be partly sunny, partly cloudy with a chance of rain, and you're good.
That's it. That's what I say all the time, especially during the summertime. It's going to be hot and it might rain. So, yeah, I can guarantee you that Bright House Network Stadium is beautiful, and you guys will enjoy the accommodations that you have there, I promise. And I'm looking for a really good football game, and I think it's going to be great, and everybody's going to do well, and hopefully UCF will come out on top.
Well, I think it is going to be a good game. I think it's a little bit better of a matchup in terms of just, the competition that the two teams will have. I think they may be a little bit more evenly matched. That's the greatest thing about football. No matter what we guys say on podcasts, radio, TV, or whatnot, that's why you tee it up and you see what happens. And that's the greatest thing about football is every week really counts. So I know that the kids are looking forward to it, and I'm certainly looking forward to coming down there and experiencing UCF.
All righty. Thank you very much, Tim. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Anytime.
There are so many ways to connect with the UCF Knightline podcast.
Check out our website at ucfknightlinepodcast.com for recruit spotlights, archived episodes, and more.
You can like us on Facebook at Knightline Podcast.
Talk with us on Twitter at UCF_Knightline.
Listen whenever and wherever you are on YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, or TuneIn.
Call us with your questions or comments at 407-205-7427.
Go Knights!
Charge on.
Well, that sets the stage. Maryland at UCF Saturday, September 17th, 7 o'clock out at Bright House. Pregame concert series features Cowboy Mouth.
If you don't know who Cowboy Mouth is, they've been around for quite a while. I have this little clip that I want to play of Cowboy Mouth because you might recognize this song. This was their one song that was like
the one-hit wonder?
Kind of. It wasn't a huge hit, but I think it got played in clubs and stuff a lot back in the day, in like the rock and roll, ish clubs. Here we go.
Jenny says, turn off the radio. Jenny says, turn off the lights.
Due to monetization deals with YouTube, that's as much as I could play of it. But anyway, yeah, they're a good band. They're kind of fun, and they have their drummer actually sits like up front on the stage. He's the lead singer. So he's not like back on a big drum riser like normal. He's up front, and it's kind of weird. And I think they'll pump up the crowd a little bit for the game. So,
and don't forget game colors for this one. Wear white if you're sitting on either sideline. Wear black if you're sitting in the end zones. This one being dubbed Fast and Fierce.
I think I'm going to wear black. Even though I'm sitting up now.
No, you're in the side.
You
went and spent the money on the white.
I'm just playing.
White shirt. Real quick around the American, I thought two big wins for the American. East Carolina knocking off North Carolina State. That's beating an ACC opponent. And Cincinnati went and beat Purdue 38-20. So those were the big wins for the league.
I don't think Purdue probably was.
But Big Ten team.
Too big of a... Yeah.
Some big games coming up. Number 6 Houston is at Cincinnati. Temple's at Penn State. Cows are over at Syracuse. Kansas is at Memphis.
Yeah,
the losing streak is now 1 again.
They play. Yeah, they play them. They've played them for the last few years.
Yeah, Kansas.
Yeah, how did that other team over there in Florida do?
West Central Florida won.
Yeah, did they
win? They won.
That's too bad.
Yeah, Virginia's at UConn. Battle of the Carolinas. East Carolina against South Carolina. So that's coming up on the schedule. For this week.
South Carolina's not that good this year.
No, they're not that good.
So Will Muschamp has not done too
But
good
still,
things
if
there.
East Carolina can go in there and beat an SEC team, yeah, more power to them.
I guess.
Taking a look at what's happening in your Knights planner, men's soccer, finally with a home game. Jeez. Wednesday, September 14th, 7 o'clock at the UCF Soccer Complex. Women's golf starts its season. The Mason Rudolph Championship in Nashville. Play gets underway Friday, September 16th, goes all weekend. Volleyball back as well. Pair of matches Friday, September 16th. UNC Asheville at the venue at noon. Central Arkansas later that night at 7:30. Central Michigan scheduled for Saturday, September 17th. If you haven't been out to volleyball, it's a good time. They have that match at 4 o'clock before the football game at 7. Men's soccer also going to have a home match before the football game. Jacksonville comes to town noon. So you can go out, you can see men's soccer, or drift away from your tailgate, check out volleyball. Women's soccer heads to Gainesville for a match with the Gators Sunday, September 18th at 7 o'clock. That one will be challenging. And what's going on with Big 12, Andrew?
As the world turns.
I guess the only thing that I heard about is that UCF actually went out there and gave their presentations someplace. In Dallas, maybe, I guess?
I don't remember where those
I think it was
are.
probably in Dallas.
Texas, right?
Yeah, so they actually met with them and gave them their plug for UCF. It is what it is.
You know the TV show, The Bachelor, where every week they court the person and then they get, this is what this is.
That's kind of what it's turned into.
Doesn't it feel like that's what this is?
It's kind of unfortunate that it's turned out that way. So what's going on with the NFL for our guys?
Rashad Perryman finally caught a pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, and an actual NFL game.
So he did in the game, because I didn't get to see that. It wasn't a touchdown
and I was
or anything?
flying back. No, not a touchdown. Blake, boy, I listened to that on the radio. Got in the car, flipped onto the Jags game, driving back, and the first thing out of the announcement about, what a great pass by Blake Bortles. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't do too well.
No, they stalled out with like 14 seconds to go, a 4th and 1, and they threw it a short pass and couldn't get 1 yard.
Okay, can you believe that Josh Sitton got cut by the released, not cut, I guess, but released by the Packers, but wound up going Chicago very quickly. You knew that he was going to get.
Yeah.
I mean, that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was a salary thing or
Yeah.
something, or who knows what that was all about.
Latavius Murray had a touchdown as well, by the way.
Good. Is he their starter again?
Yes,
I haven't really.
yeah.
I don't follow the Raiders because I like the Chiefs. Anyway,
Who rallied big time.
oh
to win
man,
today.
that was a beautiful.
They were down
beautiful
a lot.
thing. I actually turned it off. 21-3 is when I was like, okay. I was at the beach and was listening to it on my phone with my headphones, and I'm like, I've only got like 1 bar of reception anyway. I want to save my battery. I'm not going to listen to this anymore. And I get home and they're like, they've won 33-27 or something, or 33-21.
Overtime, wasn't it? So most of our guys doing great. One of our guys not doing so great. No doubt folks have heard about Bruce Miller and this saga with him. I don't know what's going on with him, but cut by the 49ers after an altercation with a senior citizen over I don't even know what.
Yeah,
right?
it's
nonsense.
Yeah,
It's all
ridiculous.
nonsense.
So
I mean, I hate to
hopefully-
glorify it, but it just seems like something's off with this guy right now.
Yeah. I hope that he can. I mean, I've talked to him in person before, and he seems like the nicest guy. I saw him at the spring game, actually.
Yeah.
He was here, and I talked to him at the spring game, and I'm just so bummed about that. And hopefully he can get whatever his demons are, like, out of there and fixed, and I don't know.
Amen.
I don't know what he can do to resurrect an NFL career. It may not be possible at this point, but hopefully, he can at least make his life, decent after all this stuff. So, anyway, on to news and notes. And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports. Men's golf tied for 4th with the University of North Texas at the Wolf Run Intercollegiate in Zionsville, Indiana, trailing Illinois, Purdue, and Kentucky.
Women's soccer wins a Sunday scorefest at Florida Gulf Coast 4-3. That followed a dominating 5-0 win over FIU earlier in the week. UCF now 5-3 overall. Meantime, senior Carol Rodriguez named the American Offensive Player of the Week. Teammate junior Sega Fredrickson earned Defensive Player of the Week honors.
UCF softball announces its 8-game fall schedule, which begins September 30th against Seminole State at the UCF softball complex.
Volleyball swept Seattle Sunday to move to 7-3. The Knights also beat Florida Atlantic Friday before losing a hard-fought match against LSU 3-2.
Cross country captures the title at the UNF Invitational in Jacksonville.
Thought we might have a score while we're recording. Men's soccer at Mercer. However, they're in a weather delay. Not sure that one will take place at all.
All right. Men's basketball is out with its 2016-17 home schedule. New head coach Johnny Dawkins' slate doesn't include many high-profile names, as the non-conference schedule includes the likes of Seattle, Penn, and Miami of Ohio. The home opener is November 14th at Nicholas State.
They're at home against Nicholas State. Have you ever heard of where are they?
The home opener is November 14th against Nicholas.
Where are they from? I don't know.
I have no
Where
idea.
are some of these schools? Jeez.
Intern.
Betty. Paging Betty. Women's Hoops also released its schedule. New head coach Katie Abramson Henderson's schedule features a home opener against South Alabama November 13th. The big one on the schedule, though, 3-time defending national champion UConn Huskies come to Orlando January 1st for the league opener.
All right, we've gone a little bit over. I'm Andrew Phegley.
I'm Trace Trylko. Go Knights!
Charge on.
UCF, charge on to the field with our spirit.